What do you do when you realize the only identity you knew doesn't fit? Not because you failed, because the game changed. The person you worked so hard to create is the very thing keeping you from who you need to be. I know because I lived it. I spent 9 seasons in the NFL, from undrafted to game-saving plays. I built a career mastering adaptability on the field. Most people wait until crisis forces the answer. I did. And losing everything taught me the pivot that mattered most. Let me take you back. 2005, Seahawks versus the Cowboys. For years, Seattle had been the underdog, the team that couldn't win the big one. But this game was our chance to turn the corner. The stadium was electric. 68,000 fans screaming so loud you couldn't hear your own thoughts. Tight game back and forth. No one giving an inch. Then, with seconds left on the clock, Dallas had the ball. The quarterback dropped back to pass. I dropped into my coverage. Stepped in front of the receiver. Interception. We kicked the game-winning field goal as time expired. And there I was, frozen in time. Just a kid from Port Arthur, Texas, soaking in the weight of what just happened. We weren't the team that almost won. We were the team that believed we could. That season, for the first time in franchise history, we were headed to the Super Bowl. But here's the thing. That play wasn't luck. It was the result of 1,000 small adjustments. The audibles we called. The changes we made when injuries hit. Performing under pressure. That night, I shook the hand of our late owner, Paul Allen. He smiled and said to me, "This is just the beginning." He was right, just not in the way that I thought. The same lesson that took me to the biggest stage in football would become the same one I needed when the clock hit 0 on my NFL career. Life has a way of delivering a big challenge right after your greatest breakthrough. One moment, confetti falling, a city celebrating, the dream I had realized since a kid finally real. Then came the words every player dreads. Coach wants to see you. Bring your playbook. That was it. No warning, no parade. My NFL career, the thing I spent my whole life chasing, building, becoming, was over. Over. And what hit hardest wasn't the loss of a job. It was losing myself. I didn't know who I was without the game. The applause stopped. The locker room went quiet. And I was left standing in the middle of my life with no idea what play to run next. I wasn't just rebuilding a career. I was rebuilding me. I went back to school, earned an MBA, even started a business. And then COVID hit. Everything paused, and I broke. I lost my business. I lost my mom. I sold my home in search of something, anything that felt like solid ground. There were days I felt like I was failing in real time. And then came the call I'll never forget. My brother had died. I fell to my knees. Because when the people who helped build you are gone, you start asking deeper questions about why you're here. Grief like that doesn't follow a playbook. Our brothers and sisters asked me to give his eulogy, and I remember standing at the podium looking at the faces, some broken, some holding back tears. Part of me wanted to run. But in that moment, I saw my nieces in the first row, wearing my brother's smile. And something changed. I realized this wasn't the end. This was the call I'd been waiting for. Not to go back to who I was, but to step into who I was becoming. At first, I didn't have a plan. I just knew I couldn't sit still. So I did what athletes do. I trained. Not my body this time, my mind. I became a professor, taught leadership, wrote a book, searching for the next win, something that would make me somebody again. Here's what I didn't realize, that I was still treating life like a game I could win, chasing external validation instead of internal alignment. And that's when it hit me. The tools that made me successful on the field, peak performance, resilient mindset, building trust in the huddle, those weren't just football skills. They were leadership skills. And every single person needed them. The same discipline, focus, and adaptability that got me to the NFL could help anyone design a new playbook for life. Because here's the thing. That skill is not about being an athlete. It's about being human. You will face moments when life falls apart, when the plan doesn't work, when the identity you built crumbles. The question isn't if you'll need to pivot, it's whether you'll do it consciously or wait until life forces your hand. So why is it so hard to pivot consciously? Here's what makes it so hard. Our brains are wired to resist change. We crave certainty, predictability. But here's the paradox. The people who train themselves to adapt, those who embrace change as an opportunity to grow, experience greater resilience, creativity, and long-term success. You see, everyone thinks the hardest part of leaving the NFL was losing the money, the fame, the identity. It wasn't. The hardest part was realizing I was more afraid of succeeding in my new life than I was of failing in my old one. Because if I succeeded, I'd have no excuse to play small. I'd have to admit that I wasted years in fear, that I was capable all along, and the only thing holding me back was me. That shift changes everything. Not because you're abandoning who you were, because you're making space for who you're meant to be. When you embrace change as an opportunity to grow, you detach who you are from what you do. You stop waiting for the world to define success for you. You adapt, reinvent, and redefine success on your terms. Right now, someone here today is holding on to something that's holding them back. A title that doesn't fit, a version of yourself that you've outgrown, an identity you're protecting that's become your cage. And even if it's not you today, it will be. Stop waiting for a crisis. Because here's what matters. You're not stuck in the wrong place. You're standing at the starting line of the right one. So the next time you're clinging to your old self, honor your past. It got you here. But the question you must answer is this: who am I becoming? My invitation to you is to grab your favorite journal. Name the identity that you've outgrown. Write it down. And then write one step towards who you're becoming. Because the game didn't end. It changed. And now you get to call the next play. Thank you.